get that feeling like you're being watched, even when you're sure no one's there. I used to think people made that stuff up. Now, I'm not so sure. This happened to me and my boyfriend Darren about 6 months ago. We live in a suburb outside Sacramento, California. Not exactly a scary place. Pretty normal, quiet, Target and Subway on every corner kind of vibe. But that night, it was anything but normal. It was a Friday. We'd been dating a year and wanted to do something simple. Grab burgers, see a movie, nothing fancy. We picked this little theater tucked behind a shopping center. It was older, kind of run down, but they had midnight showings of classic horror movies, and that night it was The Thing. I'm a sucker for old school horror, so I was all in. The theater was maybe a third full, mostly other couples, a few loner horror geeks. You could tell it wasn't a chain. The screen had a crease in it. The seats squeaked if you shifted your weight, and the projector made this low, whirring sound the whole time. But honestly, that just made it better. We sat in the back, Darren's idea, of course. He always liked to joke about making out during scary movies. And yeah, guilty. Once the credits rolled and the lights stayed dim, we hung back while everyone else started to trickle out. Some people hung around the lobby. A couple guys stayed in the front row arguing about the ending, but otherwise, it got quiet quick. I was laughing about something dumb he said, when the big metal exit door slammed shut at the far end of the room. Just this loud, echoing clang that made both of us jump. We figured it was a staff guy locking up, right? We decided to head out too. We walked down the sticky steps hand in hand, still a little buzzed from soda and popcorn in each other. The whole thing felt like a late-night teen movie. You know, cheap thrills and dumb kisses. Until we got to the parking lot. Now this place didn't have a big open lot. It was one of those narrow fenced-in garages beneath the shopping plaza. Fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, and the whole place smelled like oil and old trash. You could hear water dripping somewhere, maybe a busted pipe, just constant little plink, plink, plink. Our motorcycle was parked all the way in the back. Darren loves that thing. It's this beat-up Yamaha from like 1999, but he treats it like it's his firstborn. We were walking toward it when I noticed something weird. There was a car, an old Lincoln, maybe 80s, parked in the far corner. Weird thing was, it wasn't there earlier. We'd come through the garage on foot, and I remember it being completely empty except for our bike. Now this huge boat of a car was just sitting there, tucked into the shadows. Windows tinted pitch black. No license plate. Darren didn't notice. He was busy digging through his backpack for the keys. He looked up, squinted. Nah, must have come in after us. I don't know why it bothered me. Something about the way it was parked, not centered in the spot, kind of angled, like whoever drove it didn't care or was in a hurry. We started walking again. That's when we heard the door. A slow creak, metal hinges straining. It wasn't the main door to the street. It was the side maintenance door. One of those unmarked ones you assume only employees use. It opened just a crack, maybe 6 inches. No one stepped out, but it stayed open. Darren noticed too. He froze. We stood there for a second, waiting to hear something. Footsteps, voices, anything. Nothing. I whispered, "Let's just go." He nodded and we kept walking, faster now. I kept my eyes on the car as we passed it. The windows were still black, no sign of anyone inside, until I heard the softest knock, like a fingernail tapping glass. It came from the back window. I stopped. Darren didn't hear it. He was already on the bike, kicking the starter. I turned, looked back. The door was still cracked open. The Lincoln was still there. But now I swear I saw someone in the back seat. Just the outline, a shape leaning slightly forward. I don't know how to explain it, but my stomach dropped. Not because it was a person, but because they weren't moving, just sitting there, watching. "Babe, come on," Darren shouted over the engine. I snapped out of it, ran over, jumped on behind him, and we sped out of there so fast the tires screeched. When we hit the street, I looked back. The garage lights flickered and then went out completely, like someone flipped a switch. We didn't talk much on the way back to my place. I think we both felt it, that weird weight, like we'd walked too close to something we weren't supposed to see. I didn't sleep that night, not really. A couple weeks later, I tried to tell my friend about it. She laughed, said it was probably a homeless guy sleeping in the car. That old theater was always sketchy. But here's the thing. I went back the next weekend to see another midnight show. Psycho this time. The theater was closed. I don't tell this story often. Honestly, I think most people wouldn't believe me, and I get it. It sounds small, even silly when I try to explain it. But that night, I really thought I wasn't going to make it out. It happened about 4 months ago. I live in Colorado Springs. My husband, James, works overseas, does engineering work for an oil company in Norway. He's gone 6 weeks at a time, home for maybe 10 days if we're lucky. I'm used to doing the parenting thing on my own. That night, my daughter, Lily, she's 9, woke me up around 2:45 a.m. She was burning up, shaking. I've seen her sick before, but this was different. Her lips were pale, and she was struggling to speak clearly. I didn't even think. I threw on a hoodie, grabbed her coat and slippers, and drove straight to St. Luke's Hospital. It's about 10 minutes from our place. It was dead quiet when we pulled in. No one on the roads, no one in the lot. I parked on level 2 of the underground garage. The whole place had this weird hum. Those old fluorescent lights, you know. They kind of flicker and buzz. Not unusual, just cold. Like the kind of quiet you notice too much. I carried Lily into the ER and the nurses were great. They took her vitals, got her into a room right away. The doctor came in, asked a few questions, then said they needed to run some quick tests. They moved her into another room and told me I could wait outside. That's when I realized my phone wasn't in my purse. I'd left it in the car, probably right in the cup holder where I dropped it earlier. I wanted to call James, let him know what was going on, maybe text my sister. So I told the front desk I was running out real quick, and I took the elevator back down to level 2. Now here's where things started feeling off. When I stepped out of the elevator, the lights on the far end of the garage were off completely. Just a big black section, like someone had flipped the breakers for that side. My car was parked right on the edge of that dark zone, still visible, but barely. I didn't like it, but I kept walking. There was this sound, something light, like footsteps, but not quite. Too fast. almost like someone dragging their feet, stopping when I stopped. I thought maybe it was just my nerves, lack of sleep. I walked a little faster, keys between my fingers just in case. I got to the car, opened the door, grabbed my phone. It was there, right where I left it. But then I heard it again, scuff, scuff, coming from the dark part of the garage. It wasn't loud. That's what made it worse. It was hesitant, like someone trying not to be heard, but still screwing it up. I stood completely still. I wanted to believe it was nothing. Maybe a janitor. Maybe someone else came in and parked. But it didn't feel right. You know that feeling when you know someone's watching you? That's what it felt like, right between my shoulders. I clicked my car's key fob, beep beep, just to make some noise. The sound echoed down the garage like a shotgun. And then I heard another sound, like a shuffle, followed by a very faint cough. Human. That somehow made it worse. I turned back toward the elevator, and that's when I saw the shape, just standing there, in the darkness a little off to the side, like they were waiting. No uniform, no scrubs, no reflective vest, just a person standing there. I didn't move. I don't know why. We just stood there. I could feel my heartbeat in my ears. Then the elevator doors dinged behind them, and they walked away. Not toward the elevator, but deeper into the garage, into the dark. I didn't wait. I ran for the stairs. My hands were shaking so hard I dropped my phone halfway up the first flight. I didn't stop to pick it up. I ran until I got back to the ER. I told the security guard at the front desk what happened. He didn't look surprised, just nodded, said he'd check it out. That's all. He didn't ask for details, didn't ask me to describe anyone, just picked up his radio and walked away like it was nothing new. I never saw Lily's test results. They gave her fluids, monitored her for a few hours, and she stabilized on her own. No real diagnosis. We went home around sunrise. She was back to normal by noon, like it never happened. I went back to the hospital 2 days later to look for my phone. Security said nothing was turned in. A nurse found it 3 weeks later. Someone had stuffed it behind a vending machine on level 1. No cracks, no scratches, battery still charged at 40%. But my photos from that night, all gone. Just that one night. Deleted. Nothing else was touched. I never got an explanation, but I started parking on the street after that. I was 22 when I got the job. Just moved to Houston from my hometown. Nothing big, just trying to get on my feet. My cousin hooked me up with a security position at a shopping mall called Riverstone Square. Not one of the huge ones, just a mid-sized plaza with a couple anchor stores, a movie theater, and a 5-story parking structure behind it. They told me I'd be on day shift for the first 2 weeks while I trained. Then I'd rotate to nights. I wasn't thrilled. I don't mind being alone, but something about night shift, especially in a dead concrete parking garage, just feels off. But money's money, and I needed rent. Day shifts were easy, mostly walking around, checking stairwells, writing up reports. Occasionally dealing with someone sleeping in their car or a kid tagging a wall. The weirdest thing that happened was a homeless guy singing to himself on the roof level. Then the night shift started, 11 p.m. to 7 a.m. The very first night, I noticed the sound, a kind of humming, not mechanical, not like a machine, more like someone murmuring, low and steady, almost like when someone talks to themselves under their breath. But every time I stopped and tried to pinpoint it, it vanished. I figured maybe I was just tired. My sleep schedule was a mess. I started bringing earbuds and podcasts to keep myself grounded. Second week of nights, I noticed something else. Elevator 3 would open by itself. Not all the time, just randomly during the night. No one inside. Nothing on the cameras. It would just ding, open, and then stay like that for a minute before closing again. Maintenance said it was just a sensor glitch. Old elevators, nothing to worry about. Still gave me a weird feeling. Then one night, my 19th shift, I remember because I'd started counting them. I saw someone on level 2 at around 3:40 a.m. There weren't supposed to be anyone there. The mall was long closed. Even the gym had shut down early for deep cleaning. I was the only staff on site. But I saw a person standing near the edge, facing the wall, not moving, just standing. I radioed in like I was supposed to, even though I knew no one would answer. Told myself it was just a loiterer or someone who'd fallen asleep and just woke up. I walked up the ramp calling out, "Security, you okay?" No response. I got closer, 20 feet maybe, and realized something was off. The person wasn't quite standing right. Their shoulders were angled too high, arms stiff like they were holding themselves up, and they were barefoot. I remember that part clearly. Their feet were pale against the dirty concrete. I stopped. They turned slightly, not all the way, just enough to see one side of their face. It was a woman, early 30s maybe, long dark hair hanging in front of her face, and she was smiling. Not a normal smile, not friendly or creepy, just fixed like it had been there too long. I said, "Ma'am, are you all right?" And she whispered something. I didn't catch it. Just a hiss of syllables, not even sure it was English. I took one step closer, and the lights on the entire level flicked off, just for a second, long enough for me to lose her in the dark. When they came back on, she was gone. I ran a full loop of level 2. Nothing. Checked every camera. Nothing. I filed an incident report, but I left that part out. Just said I saw an unauthorized person, and they fled. Next night, I brought coffee, extra batteries, a flashlight, and a pocket knife. Told myself I was being paranoid, but I couldn't shake the feeling. About halfway through my shift, around 2:30, I went into the south stairwell to do a routine check. When I opened the door, I nearly tripped. There was a pile of shoes on the landing. Men's shoes, women's, kids. All old, worn down, dusty, like they'd been taken off in a hurry. They weren't there during my last round. I looked up the stairwell. Nothing. I looked down. Still nothing. And then I heard it again. That low, murmuring sound. This time, it was close, just a floor below. I didn't go down. I'm not proud of it, but I turned around, went back to the office, locked the door, and waited out the shift. When morning came, I wrote the full report, this time with everything. I handed it to my supervisor. He didn't even read it. He just said, "Shoes again, huh?" and tossed it in a drawer.